Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X research and professional physicist. And today I'd like to bring to you another one of my articles. This one's entitled Meteors or Planet X Debris. Glow is due to electric current. Now, figure 1 below shows some screenshots from video footage of a meteor in the sky. This meteor was seen from New York, New Jersey, and the mid-Atlantic on Tuesday night, April 16, 2019. The meteor becomes extremely bright at one time to the point that the sky lights up to a bright blue color. And you can see it's blue there already, and here it gets brighter. And then it gets dimmer, and then it ends up as just two little dots in the sky. Now, according to the accepted explanation, meteors glow so brightly because they burn up in the atmosphere due to friction or drag. However, friction can only cause two solid surfaces rubbing against each other to increase their temperature, not a surface within Earth's gaseous atmosphere. And here you can see what two rough surfaces are, and these surfaces will experience friction and will experience a temperature increase as a result. A smooth surface is the opposite of a rough surface, and a smooth surface does not offer resistance to movement when you move a rough surface across it. But when you try to rub two rough surfaces together, they will heat up as a result of rubbing against each other, because the molecules on the surfaces are like springs, and all molecules are strongly connected to each other so that all are like springs vibrating at an increased rate. Temperature is defined as the degree of movement or vibration of molecules. Thus, the rough surfaces experience a temperature increase, indicating that energy got transferred to both materials, which we can describe as it heating up. But a solid object moving through the atmosphere cannot heat up because the atmosphere is gaseous, not a solid surface. And thus the force that the gas molecules can exert cannot in any way deform the molecular structure of the solid surface like contact with another solid surface can. And this is illustrated by this diagram. If you have a solid object moving in this direction through the atmosphere, then it's going to encounter molecules, gaseous molecules, that are moving in all sorts of directions. The gaseous molecules are not connected to each other. All they do is they will bounce off the surface. So this gaseous molecule moving in, it makes contact with the surface and bounces off. So it didn't do a friction type of motion across the surface. And this is described here. So this would be the solid surface. So gas molecules comes in, makes contact with the surface. So it may cause a tiny deformation only in one direction as it bounces off. Tiny little force. But when you rub two surfaces across each other, you have two sets of molecules that are solidly connected to each other. And as they rub across, so this molecule here will experience a strong pulling force in one direction as this rough edge rubs across it, or let's if this rough edge was there first and then it moves across, so we drag it across. So when this rough edge is on this side, it will be pushed to that side, and as it's dragged across, then it will move back to the other side, and all the molecules, because they're all these are all the molecules attached to each other, will experience the same force, because it's like rubber bands being connected to each other. So all these molecules will start vibrating backwards and forwards like a spring, And there's a huge sideways deformation force on these molecules due to these dragging forces, due to the two surfaces rubbing against each other. And this is what causes the heating up of the surface, the increase in temperature, which you will not get here at all. It's just impossible, because you are not going to get a backwards and forwards kind of force that you get here. You just get gas molecules bouncing off. In addition, if air friction could cause a solid object moving through it to heat up, then parachutes, which experience an extreme amount of drag of friction when deployed in the Earth's atmosphere, would heat up and go up in flames. Also, an exposed face on a fast-moving motorcycle does not heat up because of air being forced to part as the face moves through it. Thus, meteors cannot burn up due to friction. But they burn up due to something else, because meteors are Planet X debris and they are part of the inside layers of the planet. So they were magma created by the core system of a Planet X planet, which solidified when the planet lost its energy supply and turned into solid rock, which then broke into pieces as the planet broke up due to the core system having become depleted in gravitational energy. Because they were deep inside the planet, they had a large amount of gravitational energy, which they lost at that time, which has left them with a high capacity for absorbing energy, most likely because they have a higher density than matter that was closer to the surface of the planet. Because high gravitational energy inside a planet goes with high density. This means that when meteors enter the Earth's atmosphere, they are detected by the Earth's core as high-density matter with extreme energy depletion for its density in the outer layers of the planet, and thus a huge amount of energy flows towards the objects in the form of an electron current in order to re-establish equilibrium. The fast absorption of energy causes chemical reactions on the object's outer surface layers, which in turn causes the object to glow brightly until it has absorbed the gravitational energy its density dictates it should have. And here you can see some photographs of pieces of rock which fell from the sky over Cuba on February 1st, 2019. And the rocks are black on the outside. You can see that here. And that is due to the chemical reactions which resulted from a large electron current flowing into it in order to equalize its gravitational potential according to its density. Planet X debris, which had been on the surface of the planets, absorb energy at a much slower pace and thus sink through the atmosphere at a much slower pace, as demonstrated by the pieces of rock with buildings on them and icebergs which remain suspended in the atmosphere for long enough to be observed as cities in the sky. And you may look at Article 767 entitled Planet X Debris Coming in as Rocks, Snow, Hail, and Buildings. And here you can see a huge piece of rock, and this was observed in the clouds over Peru. You can see that it's long and flat, and you would expect the ones on which you find these buildings to be long and flat as well. And that means that the surface of the planet seems to have broken up into large, long and flat pieces. And on some of these pieces there were buildings, and so these buildings come in with the rest of the debris into the Earth's atmosphere and sink down slowly towards the surface as they absorb energy. They don't have a very high capacity for energy absorption because they were surface pieces, so they absorb it slowly and they sink down through the atmosphere slowly. And you may look at Article 584 entitled Planet X, the Reason Behind GMO Crops for more details on this. Now, all Planet X surface material, including ocean water, which froze into blocks of ice when the planets were destroyed, will also slowly absorb energy once inside the Earth's atmosphere, and will thus slowly sink down through the atmosphere until it has reached the surface. This frozen ocean is what is referred to as icebergs once they enter the ocean. They are also most likely being steered to Antarctica by the powers that be, so that they end up as close to the South Pole and thus as far away from prying ice as possible, and are thus constantly replenishing the Antarctica ice sheet. And you may look at Article 777 entitled Icebergs or Planet X Frozen Water Falling in the Ocean from the Sky, and Article 773 entitled Planet X, the Source of Earth's Polar Ice Caps. And here you can see an iceberg floating in the ocean, and icebergs are Planet X frozen ocean. And the energy depletion that occurred due to the planet at the time that the planets broke up caused that surface water to turn into these huge blocks of ice. So in conclusion, meteors glow brightly inside the Earth's atmosphere because they are high-density, energy-depleted matter coming to the Earth as part of the Planet X debris field, which attract a strong energy flow in the form of an electric current once inside the Earth's atmosphere. The logical explanation about meteors burning up due to air friction is another attempt by the powers that be to cover up the truth about Planet X. And these are the references. This is Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X physicist. Thank you for watching.